By the time I was 71, I thought I'd learned every lesson life could teach a man. Turns out, humiliation still had a few tricks left. The strange thing is, the day my daughter poured garbage juice all over my suit started out with me worrying about whether the coffee at the hotel would be any good. Funny what you remember. My name is Ronald Mercer. I live outside Des Moines, Iowa. I spent 43 years owning a plumbing company. Nothing fancy, just clogged drains, frozen pipes, flooded basements, and customers who always called on Christmas Eve. My wife Elaine used to joke that people only remembered plumbers when something exploded. She'd laugh and say, "Honey, if toilets worked perfectly, we'd starve." She'd been gone 7 years by then. Cancer. Fast and cruel. I still talk to her picture every morning. Old habits are stubborn. My granddaughter Lily said talking to dead people was weird. Then she turned 8 and started talking to her hamster after it died. Life teaches everybody eventually. The wedding was supposed to be the happiest day of my daughter Melissa's life. And I'd paid for nearly all of it. $83,000. Not because she asked, because I offered. Because fathers are stupid, not stupid in the bad sense, stupid in the loving sense. Stupid enough to believe love works like investments. Put enough in and eventually somebody notices. Melissa was 41. Second marriage. Her first husband had cheated on her. That divorce nearly destroyed her. I paid for therapy, helped with rent, watched my grandkids, covered school expenses, fixed her roof, bought groceries when she couldn't, and when she met Brent Holloway, she sounded happy again. That's all I wanted. Happy. She called me every day during the wedding planning. Not to ask how I was, mostly in voices. Dad, the flowers changed. Dad, Brent wants live music. Dad, the venue wants more money. Dad, everybody does destination weddings now. And I'd laugh. Sure, sweetheart, because that's what dads do. My friend Earl from the coffee shop called me an idiot. Earl was 75 and had no filters. Ronnie, she's treating you like an ATM with arthritis. I laughed. She's my daughter. He shook his head. Love shouldn't require receipts. But old men are stubborn, especially fathers. 3 days before the wedding, I drove to Cedar Rapids to deliver the final check. $22,000. Melissa barely looked up from her laptop. Set it there, Dad. No hug, no thank you, nothing. Brent smiled. Brent always smiled, too much, like a politician selling bad insurance. You're saving us again, Ron. I shrugged. Family. Melissa sighed. Dad, can you please stop wearing those old jackets? People notice. I looked down. Blue flannel. Clean ironed. Elaine bought it 15 years ago. What's wrong with it? Melissa rubbed her temples. Nothing. Just try looking less retired. Brent laughed. Image matters. I smiled. Inside something pinched. Not pain exactly. Disappointment. Different thing. Older thing. That night I opened Elaine's recipe box. She kept little notes inside. One fell out. Her handwriting. Ronald, don't spend your life trying to earn love from people who already have it. I stared at those words for 20 minutes. Then cried like a fool. Old men cry. We just pretend allergies caused it. The wedding morning arrived. Beautiful weather. Sunny. Perfect. I wore my best charcoal suit, bought new shoes, trimmed my beard, even used aftershave, the expensive kind. The hotel ballroom looked like a magazine cover. Everyone complimented the decorations. Nobody mentioned who paid, which was fine. I didn't need applause. Just maybe a smile from my daughter. Something. Anything. Instead, Melissa spotted me near the entrance and frowned. Oh my God. I blinked. What, the suit? I looked down. What's wrong with it? It's depressing. Brent chuckled. It does make you look like somebody's accountant. I laughed awkwardly. Guess that's better than looking like somebody's parole officer. Nobody laughed. Melissa rolled her eyes. Dad, seriously. I smiled anyway. People get stressed. Weddings make everyone weird. That's what I told myself. An hour later I overheard her bridesmaids. He paid for everything. Seriously. Poor guy. One woman whispered, Melissa hates that suit. Another giggled. She says he dresses like sadness. I walked away not angry, just tired. Funny thing about age, you stop expecting miracles, you just hope not to get hurt. Then came the photographs. Melissa kept moving me farther and farther away. Not there. No farther. No, behind Aunt Nancy. Finally, Brent's brother stood beside me. Whispered, you okay? I smiled. He frowned. No, just unwanted. That one stung. After the ceremony, everyone moved toward the reception hall. Music, champagne, laughter. I remember thinking maybe the worst part was over. I remember thanking God. And that's when Melissa picked up the silver bucket. At first I thought it held flowers. Then I smelled it. Rotting vegetables, old fruit, liquids from discarded food, kitchen waste, garbage juice. People turned. Someone laughed nervously, and before I could speak, Melissa smiled, lifted the bucket, and dumped every drop over my suit. Warm, disgusting, sticky. The ballroom fell silent, my shoes squished. Something slid down my neck. I stood frozen, 71 years old, covered in garbage. Then my own daughter laughed, actually laughed, and said, "Now you match your life." Everyone stared. Brent laughed too. A bridesmaid covered her mouth, and somewhere behind me, a little girl's voice whispered 6 words. "Grandpa, Mommy did bad thing." I slowly turned around, and what I saw on my granddaughter Lily's face made my stomach drop. Lily wasn't crying. That was the part that unsettled me. Kids cry when they're scared. Kids cry when they're confused. But Lily just stood there holding her tiny purse, staring at her mother with a look I'd only ever seen on grown people. Disappointment, the kind that arrives after hope leaves. She squeezed my hand. "Grandpa, Mommy did bad thing." Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. I could hear forks clinking somewhere near the dessert table. The band had stopped. Even the bartender looked uncomfortable. And Melissa, she was laughing. Actually laughing. Brent too, like they just pulled off the funniest prank in history. "Relax, Dad," she said. "It's symbolic." Symbolic. Funny word. People use fancy words when they don't want to admit they're being cruel. I stood there dripping pieces of lettuce and something that looked suspiciously like shrimp. One of the waitresses hurried over with towels. Poor girl couldn't have been more than 22. She looked horrified. "Oh my God, sir." Her name tag said, "Hey ya." I smiled. "Not your fault." Meanwhile, Aunt Nancy stormed over. "What the hell is wrong with you, Melissa?" Melissa rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. He'll survive. He paid for this wedding, and..." Melissa snapped. "He acts like that makes him a saint." Brent crossed his arms. "He guilt trips everybody." I blinked. "Guilt trips." Melissa pointed at me. "You always do things so people feel sorry for you." That sentence hurt worse than the garbage, because I spent 40 years trying to do the opposite. I never reminded anybody about money. Never asked for praise. Never wanted repayment. Love wasn't supposed to come with invoices. Lily squeezed my hand harder. "You smell bad." I chuckled.
"Yeah, you need shower, I think so."
Then she whispered something else. Something nobody else heard. "Grandma wouldn't like this." And suddenly I couldn't breathe, because she was right. Elaine wouldn't like this. Not because of the suit. Not because of the money. Because she'd hate seeing me standing there apologizing for being hurt. Old habits. Even humiliated, I was about to say sorry. Can you believe that? Sorry. To people who just poured garbage on me. That's what grief and love and loneliness can do to a man. They teach him to settle. Then a voice boomed from behind. "Move." Everyone turned. It was Earl. My coffee shop friend, 75, mean eyebrows, bad knees, heart of gold. He looked at me, then at Melissa, then at the garbage running off my sleeves, and Earl exploded. "You did what?" Melissa sighed. "Oh God, not him." Earl pointed his cane at her. "Girl, your father buried your mother, worked himself half to death, raised you, paid for this circus, and you dumped trash on him. Mind your business." "My business." He laughed. "Sweetheart, decent people make cruelty everybody's business." Brent stepped forward. "Sir, calm down." Earl looked him up and down. "You marry her 5 minutes ago and already sound stupid." I almost laughed. Almost. Then Brent smirked. "Maybe Ron needs to stop acting like a victim." Victim. Funny word. You know you're in trouble when the people hurting you start accusing you of enjoying it. Lily suddenly walked toward her mother. 8 years old. Tiny. Pink dress. Little sparkly shoes. And she said something that made half the room freeze. "Mommy." Melissa smiled. "What, baby?" Lily frowned. "You hurt Grandpa." Melissa sighed. "Sweetie. Adults are joking." No, silence. People shifted awkwardly. And Lily continued. "Grandpa buys food." Silence. "Grandpa fixes bike." Silence. "Grandpa hugs me." Tears formed in her eyes. "You hurt nice people." Nobody breathed. Kids don't use speeches. They use truth. And truth is embarrassing. Melissa looked around. "Can someone take her?" Lily stepped backward. "No." And then she did something that shattered me. She walked past her own mother, past Brent, straight to me, wrapped her little arms around my waist, ignoring the smell, ignoring the slime, ignoring everything, and whispered, "Grandpa wins. Wins. Not revenge. Not money. Not arguments. Just love." I broke. Completely broke. Cried right there in front of everybody. Didn't care anymore. Heather the waitress cried too. Aunt Nancy cried. Even Brent's brother looked sick. And then an elderly pastor named Samuel, who had officiated the wedding, slowly removed his jacket. Without saying a word, he draped it around my shoulders. Then he turned toward Melissa. His face wasn't angry, which somehow made it worse. He simply asked, "Melissa, who taught you that humiliating someone is funny?" She shrugged. "Can everyone stop acting dramatic?" Pastor Samuel nodded sadly. "No." He looked around the ballroom. "I've married hundreds of couples." Silence. "But I've never witnessed a bride publicly degrade her father." Nobody moved. "Today wasn't funny." He looked directly at Brent. "And laughing at cruelty doesn't make you clever." Brent stopped smiling. Pastor Samuel sighed. "I'll pray for both of you." Then he walked away. No lecture. No yelling. Just disappointment. And somehow that silence felt heavier than screaming. I headed toward the exit. Still covered in garbage. Still shaking. And just before I reached the doors, Heather the waitress came running. "Sir." She handed me a small envelope. "I found this under your plate." I frowned. "My plate," she nodded. "It says your name, in familiar handwriting. Elaine's handwriting." My heart nearly stopped, because Elaine had been gone 7 years, and I knew one thing immediately. I had never seen that envelope before. I stood there with garbage still drying on my sleeves, staring at an envelope with my name written in my wife's handwriting. For a second, I honestly thought grief had finally made me crazy. 7 years. 7 years since Elaine had slipped away in that hospital room, squeezing my hand and apologizing for something that wasn't her fault. And now somehow, on my daughter's wedding day, a letter appeared with her handwriting. Heather looked nervous. "Sir, are you okay?" I swallowed hard. "Where exactly was this?" "Under your dinner plate." I thought maybe it was part of the decorations, but then I saw your name. I nodded. "Thank you." Earl frowned. "Ronnie." I couldn't answer. I simply tucked the envelope inside Pastor Samuel's jacket. Not there. Not in that hallway. Not while smelling like rotten tomatoes. I wanted home, I wanted silence. And I wanted Elaine, not memories. Her. But old men don't get everything they want. Sometimes we settle for photographs and recipes and voices inside our heads. Lily tugged my hand. "I'm coming." Melissa overheard. "No, you're staying." Lily hugged my leg. "No." Elizabeth Lily Holloway. I said no. Brent crossed his arms. "Don't make a scene." Little Lily looked up at me, then at her mother, and she asked quietly, "Mummy, why you hate Grandpa?" The entire room went silent again. Melissa's face changed. Not guilt, embarrassment, like somebody had tracked mud across her carpet. "I don't hate Grandpa." "Then why you make him cry?" Nobody spoke. "Because kids ask questions adults spend years avoiding." Aunt Nancy stepped in. "Enough." She knelt beside Lily. "Oni, Grandpa needs to go home and shower." Lily shook her head. "I go too." Melissa sighed loudly. "For God's sake." That sentence did it. Not the garbage, not the laughter, not the insults. That sigh. That irritated sigh directed at her own child. I looked at Lily. "You stay, sweetheart." Tears filled her eyes. "You come back. Always. You promise." I smiled. "Old plumbers don't break promises." She nodded. "Okay." Then she kissed my cheek, ignoring the smell, ignoring everything, and whispered, "Love you most." I nearly lost it again. Earl drove me home. Halfway there he muttered, "I've been waiting 30 years to punch somebody." I laughed through tears. "Bad knees, Earl." He snorted. "Still got elbows." By the time we reached my house outside Des Moines, night had settled in. Everything felt quiet. Too quiet. The same recliner. The same lamp Elaine hated. The same ugly curtains she'd always promised to replace. "Those curtains are a crime against God," she'd say. "Never change them." Funny. Life steals people before they finish complaining. Earl made coffee. Terrible coffee. Always terrible. Drink. "This tastes like engine oil." Good. Builds character. I laughed. For the first time all day. Then he sat beside me. "Open it." The envelope. My hands shook. Inside was a letter. And another smaller envelope. I unfolded the first page. "Ronald, if you're reading this, then God finally ignored my request and took me before you. Which means you're probably being stubborn and skipping breakfast. Eat something. And stop wearing those ugly shoes." I smiled through tears. That was Elaine. Bossy until the end. Then I continued. "I asked Nancy to keep this letter somewhere safe and only give it to you on the day our daughter gets married again. Because if Melissa ever finds happiness twice, I know you'll spend too much money trying to make everyone else happy. And I know you. You'll pretend you're fine. You'll smile when you're hurt. You'll apologize when others should. And you'll keep giving pieces of yourself away. Ronald, please stop. You already gave enough. Love isn't measured by suffering." My tears blurred the words. Earl quietly looked away. I kept reading. "If Melissa ever forgets who you are, don't chase her. Don't beg. People lost in themselves eventually get lonely. Leave the door unlocked, but stop standing on the porch waiting. And one more thing. The second envelope belongs to Lily. Not now, when she's older. Promise me. I stopped breathing. Lily, Elaine knew. She knew. The smaller envelope had "For Lily" written across it. I held it against my chest and cried like a man who'd finally heard his wife again. Earl blew his nose loudly. Damn allergies.
You're crying? No, I'm old.
We laughed, then sat in silence. At 2 in the morning, my phone buzzed. Melissa. I stared. Ignored it. Again. Ignored. Text message. Dad, everybody's overreacting. Another. It was a joke. Another. You're embarrassing me. Another. Brent says you're manipulating people. Earl read it. His eyebrows disappeared into his hairline. Manipulating? I sighed. No point. Then another message came. Not Melissa. Unknown number. It read, Mr. Mercer, you don't know me. My name is Daniel Holloway. I'm Brent's older brother. We need to talk. What happened tonight wasn't the first time. Please call me. Someone is getting hurt, and it's not who you think. I stared at the screen and suddenly remembered something strange. During the wedding, Daniel had looked terrified. Not angry, terrified, as if he'd seen this before. And before I could even process it, my phone rang again. This time it was Lily, crying, and the first words out of her mouth made my blood run cold. Grandpa, Mommy left. I sat upright so fast I spilled Earl's terrible coffee all over the table. Lily. She was crying hard now. Not loud, not screaming. Just that quiet crying children do when they're trying to be brave. Grandpa. I'm here, sweetheart. Mommy left. Where are you? Hotel. My heart stopped. I don't know. Where's Brent? He gone too. Earl was already grabbing his keys. What happened? I put the phone on speaker. Lily, honey. Who's with you? Aunt Nancy, thank God. Then another voice came on. Ronald. Nancy sounded exhausted. They left. What? Melissa and Brent got into some kind of fight after everyone started talking about what happened. They drove off. They haven't answered their phones. I'm taking her home. I closed my eyes. Good. Nancy hesitated. Ronald, she's asking for you. Earl pointed toward the door. We're leaving. 25 minutes later, we pulled into Nancy's driveway. Lily came running barefoot across the living room before I even got inside. Grandpa. She wrapped herself around me. I smelled shampoo. Nancy had cleaned her up and changed her dress. She held my face. You clean now? I smiled. Much better. You still sad? A little. She thought about that, then nodded. Sad people need pancakes. I froze. That was Elaine. Those exact words. Nancy blinked. She says that all the time. I laughed and cried at once. Grandma used to say it. Lily smiled proudly. I know. Nancy made tea while Lily sat beside me under a blanket, half asleep, holding my hand. And sometime after 3 in the morning, Daniel Holloway arrived. Brent's older brother. Tall, gray beard, looked tired. He stood awkwardly by the door. I wasn't sure you'd answer. I nodded. Come in. He sat, looked at Lily, lowered his voice. I'm sorry. I shrugged. Not your fault. Daniel shook his head. No, but I should have warned you. Nobody spoke. Brent has spent his whole life making excuses for Melissa. That surprised me. Making excuses. Daniel nodded. When they started dating, he worshipped her. He rubbed his eyes. But over the last year, silence. He changed. How? He became afraid. Nancy frowned. Afraid of what? Daniel laughed sadly, upsetting her. He leaned forward. Ron, did she always mock people? I didn't answer immediately, because memories were opening. Little things, her rolling her eyes at waitresses, belittling teachers, making fun of cashiers, complaining about gifts. Small things. Thousands of small things. Things I'd ignored. Because fathers explain away storms. Daniel sighed. Brent lost 30 pounds. What? Barely sleeps. Stopped seeing friends. Apologizes for everything. Hides purchases. Panics when she gets angry. Nancy stared. Daniel nodded. Tonight wasn't a joke. He looked at me. It wasn't about your suit. It was about humiliation. My chest tightened. He continued. She did similar things to Brent. Smaller things. Mean jokes. Recording him. Mocking him in front of people. He swallowed. But tonight, he looked ashamed. Tonight scared me. Lily had fallen asleep against my shoulder. Daniel smiled softly. She's beautiful. She is. He nodded. Protect her. Then he handed me something. A photograph. I frowned. It showed Melissa, age 11, sitting beside Elaine, covered in flour, smiling, happy, not angry, not cruel, just a kid. I looked confused. Daniel smiled sadly. Brent found that in one of her boxes. He hesitated. He wanted to remind her who she used to be. Silence. But she ripped it in half. My heart sank. Daniel looked towards sleeping Lily. I don't think your daughter is evil. He wiped his eyes. I think she's miserable. At 6:30 in the morning, my phone rang. Melissa. For some reason, I answered. She sounded drunk, or exhausted, or both. Dad, silence. Everybody hates me. I closed my eyes.
No, they do.
No. She started crying. Real crying. Not angry crying. Broken crying. I don't know why I did it. Neither did I. She sobbed. I ruined everything. I looked at Lily asleep beside me, and suddenly I remembered something Elaine once told me. Broken people break things. Not because they enjoy it. Because they don't know how to hold them. Melissa whispered. Brent left. Silence. He dropped me at a motel. Long pause. He said he loved me. Pause. But he can't survive me. I said nothing. Then she whispered the words I never expected to hear. Dada. Her voice cracked. Am I a bad person? I looked at the sunrise through Nancy's window, thought about garbage juice, thought about hospital rooms, thought about Elaine, thought about Lily saying Grandpa wins. And I answered honestly, no. Silence. No, sweetheart. Tears rolled down my face. But you've been making bad choices. She cried harder, and for the first time in years, my daughter stopped defending herself and simply whispered, I'm tired. 3 months later, she entered counseling. Brent returned slowly, not as a husband, not at first, as a friend, as somebody with boundaries. Lily spent every Saturday making pancakes at my house. Daniel became one of my closest friends, and every Sunday, we'd sit on my porch with Earl and argue about coffee, terrible coffee, good company. One afternoon, nearly a year later, Melissa sat beside me on the porch swing. No makeup, no fancy clothes, just my little girl with gray streaks beginning to appear. She handed me something. My old suit, dry cleaned, pressed, perfect. And she started crying. I'm sorry. No speeches, no excuses, just sorry. And I smiled, because old men learn something eventually. Sorry is work, not words. Work. She'd been doing the work. And as the sun disappeared, Lily climbed into my lap, looked at her mother, looked at me, and announced proudly, nobody mean today. We all laughed, even Earl. Then she grinned and said, Grandpa wins. And this time, she was right.